One of Steph Curry's top plays of the season, so buckle up because number 5, beating the shot clock. Woo! Sorry, Kings. I mean, come on.
The coolest part about all these,
I still don't get watching him play.
It's amazing, right?
All of these plays, guys, you look down at the bench and the reaction was just insane because everybody's going, I can't believe he's doing this again.
Again, number 4, up and under versus the Celtics.
Hey.
This man's got other things in his bag besides a jumper, just saying. Look at that handle,
He's
too.
an incredible finisher, too. He doesn't get enough credit for how he can finish the ball around the rim. It's incredible.
And he built up his strength so much this past season. He's able to fight more.
He puts in that work every day on all that stuff.
Number 3 beats the first quarter buzzer in San Antonio with a little giddy up there at the end.
The amount of confidence that these guys have playing alongside him when they know he can drop those kind of shots. Juan Toscano-Anderson said, hey, it's like being in a fight with Mike Tyson. You know you've got your guy.
Side. Well, Chris, talk about finishes. Look at that circus layup. Come on.
You know, and let me ask you a question. Is this good defense in everything that we're watching? Every defense that he's beating. It's good defense, right?
There's 4 guys there. There's 4 guys.
I remember after that game, I was asking him if it was like from the Come Fly With Me video.
This was amazing. I was in the arena for this. Lefty shot versus the Celtics.
Come on.
This is like the Inigo Montoya and the Princess Bride. Oh, I forgot. I could do this with my left hand as well.
Yeah, I'm left-handed and I haven't hit a shot
by the way. Chris, that's amazing.
He got on and just started laughing.
Right?
Everybody just laughs at the end because they've seen him do it so many times.
So Steph Curry, of course, look, it's not like anybody forgot about Steph Curry, but there was such a rough Warriors season the season before. This year, he was allowed to be Steph, especially once James Wiseman got hurt and the way they were running that offense changed. And with draft day now just 2 days away, the Dubs have decisions to make about how to build around him. They have the number 7 and 14 picks in the draft. They do have a young stud in James Wiseman. They also expect Klay Thompson back next season. So there's a lot to be optimistic about. But they don't feel yet, oh my gosh, this is a championship team all over again. Just bank it. We're good. There are different paths they can go to try to improve. So, Nick, you are as close to the Warriors as anyone at ESPN. What are they looking to do on this pivotal week? And then what do you think they can do? Because those are 2 different questions.
Right. So first one is Bob Myers is going to live on the phone.
Okay.
In the next few days. And he admitted as much when we talked to him yesterday. He's saying everything can change in a matter of moments. Everything goes up to the deadline when you're ready to make that pick more so than any other point that he can remember in his career. Having said that, in the end, I still expect the Warriors to make both these picks because there's
not be able to trade them.
They're going to try. I think they'd love to pair one more veteran with Steph, Klay, and Draymond heading into the new year. But where's that guy? I mean, that guy in theory would be a guy like Bradley Beal. And there's been a lot of speculation around him for over a year, potentially going to the Warriors. But there's no indication yet that he would move from the Wizards. And so knowing that, I just don't know who's out there who's going to make them that much better when you're giving up the draft capital that they would have to in order to make that move. So they're going to continue to work the phones. I know Bob and his staff have been on it the last couple weeks. But in the end, when we're sitting there on Thursday, I'd expect them to make both those picks.
What about you, Chris? What do you think is going to happen there?
Yeah, I mean, it's such an interesting market. You know, they do have some flexibility as far as making a trade. They're already pretty much capped out. So they won't be able to sign somebody outright. They will have to be very creative in the trade market if they want to make that move. But I like the team that they have right now. Anytime you have a healthy Klay, hopefully, and a healthy Steph Curry, you can almost put anybody out there and win a lot of basketball games. For them, it's championship or bust, and you definitely want to maximize Steph and Klay's years that they have in their prime. But with that said, I think they're in a tremendous position to, really add some 3-and-D guys. They just have to strengthen what they have right now. And if I'm Jeff Wiseman, I know I'm kind of breaking off right now.
James,
young fella. James Wiseman. Excuse me. But when you are in a position like that and you have those 2 shooters, pick and roll. Pick and roll. I wouldn't shoot a jumper. I would watch, all the tapes I can on Giannis right now and say, okay, how can I finish close to the basket? How can I get as many dunks per game as I can possibly muster? Because if he sets screens and works on his game as far as getting those guys open and diving to the rim, he will make them better. Their team will be better, and Draymond will pass him the ball. So all he has to do is make sure he's working on his game. They need to work on the continuity of what they have. They need to play defense because they're going to be able to score the ball and really just work with what they have and hopefully bring in some young talent. But like I say, look for them to continue to maybe be aggressive all the way up until the trade deadline next year.
Well, first of all, James Wiseman, if you're out there, that is Hall of Fame advice you were getting from Chris Bosh. So enjoy that. And before we got to go to break, but before, Chris, as someone who was part of forming a super team based on your Team USA experience and getting to know guys, do you think that Draymond Green was trying to recruit Bradley Beal when they were in training camp together in Las Vegas for Team USA? Do you think maybe some of those conversations might have happened, at least in the Draymond direction?
Draymond is always trying to recruit. Trust me. He's got 3 rings, and when you have 3 rings, you want to get 4.
There you go. Mark, are the Wizards under pressure to get an answer from Bradley before draft night so they can kind of decide what they're doing here?
Well, I certainly think it would behoove them to know definitively what he wants to do. But I think Bradley has $181 million worth of reasons to hold tight and maybe figure everything out later. I'm told as of this morning, there has been no request, even though there's been a lot of speculation that such could take place. We're a couple days before the draft. Obviously, he would be a very, very coveted piece. You know, you hear his name even around Golden State, where they have a lot of assets to move. But as of right now, and I know he has a really good relationship with general manager Tommy Shepard, and they're pretty open and honest with each other. No trade requests from Bill.
Yeah, Rachel, and I think the pressure on Washington was right when the season ended, right when they lost in the first round to Philadelphia. And their general manager, Tommy Shepard, came out and said, this is not a run it back type team, right? We're not going to bring back some of the same faces that were on the roster, and they've got 5 or 6 free agents, including players like Robin Lopez, Ish Smith. So for Beal, I think the next couple weeks are going to be critical from the Wizards. It's similar to what we're going to see in Portland, right? As far as the pressure on the organizations to try to build a championship level team. And when you have Beal and Russell Westbrook making $75 to $80 million of your salary, it is going to present a challenge. And as Mark said, with that extension, he's eligible to sign a $180 million extension starting on October 1st. He can get $170 million from another team in the offseason with cap space. So there's not much of an advantage. The advantage comes with that $135 million contract that he can sign with Washington, or perhaps if he's traded during the season with his new team.
Yeah, and that's certainly what players on other teams are going to be saying to him. Hey, you can pretty much get almost as much money with us. And we talk about Team USA and the Olympics being such strong recruiting ground. Mark, you mentioned Golden State. I don't know if during training camp, Draymond was in Bradley Beal's ear saying, hey, friend.
You know he was.
Hey,
you know he is.
Hey. Now, Bradley, of course, unfortunately went into the health and safety protocol, so he did not make the trip to Tokyo. He is not with these guys on the trip, but he was with them for 2 weeks in Las Vegas. There's a lot of names that are on a lot of teams that could use a Bradley Beal. So I don't know what conversations were happening behind the scenes. Bobby, I do want to ask you, though, you mentioned some of these contract numbers Bradley is eligible for. As Mark said, he's got 181 million reasons to stay in D.C. But what about from the D.C. side? The last Supermax they gave out was to John Wall. We saw how that worked out. They're still paying Russell Westbrook, who is on a Supermax that he signed in Oklahoma City. Are they really in position? Do they feel like they want to commit that much money to Bradley Beal for these next 5 years if Beal gives them the opportunity to do so?
Yeah, I think if Bradley Beal walked into Tommy Shepard's office today and said, I want to sign that $100 million extension, or let's play it out and I will put my name to 235, I think Tommy would give him a nice handshake agreement. And I think
and a pen.
The Supermax gets, we know the Supermax gets tricky because, Rachel, what happens is that teams are paying usually for the past, not much for what the future is. And when we saw it with Chris Paul, when we get to years 4 and 5 and you're paying a guy $45 to $50 million and maybe the production is not there, it's tough to continue to build the team. But I think if Bradley Beal gives his commitment to Washington, I think they will gladly sign on the dotted line there.
Well, the good thing with Beal is that he's still younger than a lot of people realize he is. He does have 5 years projected of production ahead of him. And it does pain me to say this because it's my hometown, but Washington, D.C. just has not been a free agent destination. So if you've got a guy like Bradley Beal, I got to think you will do everything and pay anything to keep him. Right, Mark?
And Rachel, ironically, just before the pandemic hit, a couple of weeks before, I was in San Francisco, the home of the Warriors, having lunch with Bradley Beal, doing an interview with him. And the one thing that he said is he loves Washington. He wants to have a career in Washington. He wants to have his jersey